People today talk about meditation as though it were some rare skill, something extraordinary that one must master, like playing an instrument or learning complex subjects. However, the moment you attempt to meditate, you miss the point entirely. You cannot meditate. It is not something you can force. The very effort to meditate is the failure itself. This is because the ego, the thinker, the inner voice, is the very obstacle to true meditation. Thinking is merely an inner chatter, like talking to oneself. As long as that chatter persists, you are trapped in a world of abstractions, in a world of symbols that represent reality, but not reality itself. Reality is not a thought. It is not a word. It is not a name. Reality is now. This moment, this eternal present, cannot be grasped by a mind that seeks to capture it. The mind can only represent, but it can never experience directly. The issue is that many people attempt to meditate by battling with their own thoughts. They sit in their positions, gritting their teeth, trying to silence their thoughts, forcing peace. But that is like trying to calm a turbulent sea with a flat iron. The harder you try, the more disturbed it becomes. No, meditation cannot be achieved by effort. Meditation can only happen when you allow it to unfold naturally. Just as you allow yourself to listen to the hum of the world without trying to understand it, without naming it. Simply listen, simply be. In that effortless being, meditation arises on its own. Many people are addicted to thinking, to the constant chatter inside their minds. Words, symbols, images, they never stop. It is literally like talking to yourself. If you speak all the time, you will never hear what others have to say. And if you think all the time, you will never encounter what is real. You only encounter your thoughts about reality, not reality itself. You live in a world of maps, mistaking the map for the territory. You see a tree and call it a tree, but the word tree is not the living, swaying reality. It is just a sound, a convenient label. This is the illusion. The mind constantly labels, creating separation between you and the world. And in that separation, you feel isolated, cut off from the very universe you are part of. We live in a constant attempt to describe, to name, to control, yet reality does not need your commentary. It simply is. When you are caught up in endless thinking, you are living in a dream, never truly engaging with life. You are merely talking to yourself about it. This is the first great obstacle to meditation. What, then, is reality? The very question moves you away from it. Reality cannot be captured by thought, language, or concepts. The moment you name it, you limit it. Words divide and categorize, creating boundaries where there are none. The real world is not composed of things or events. Those are inventions of the mind. Out there, it is simply happening, a marvelous flow of energy. Consider the stars. We call them constellations, but in reality, they are not grouped together in the sky. That grouping exists only in your mind. The divisions and patterns are projections of your symbolic system. Reality itself makes no such distinctions. There is no fundamental difference between you and what you call the external world. The idea that you are a separate entity, confined to a body, is simply an illusion. You are as much the sunlight as you are the eyes that perceive it. You are as much the air filling your lungs as you are the breath that moves through you. The ego insists on this separation. Here I am, it says, and there is the world. This division is the root of anxiety, conflict, and the search for control. But in reality, the true reality is free from these concerns. It is neither spiritual nor material. It simply is. The moment you stop trying to define it, to grasp it, you begin to experience it. Now, let us explore the ego, the I, the separate self that most people believe themselves to be. The ego is not a tangible entity. It is a social construct, a hallucination created by your thoughts. It is the thought of I. When you examine it closely, you realize that the ego has no substance. It is a pattern of tension, a constant effort to control and define. When you think, you create the image of a thinker behind the thoughts. When you feel, you create the image of a thinker behind the feelings. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you think, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you think, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you think, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling behind the feeling. When you feel, you create the image of a feeling You create the image of a thinker behind the thoughts. When you feel, You create the image of a feeler behind the feelings. These are only ideas. Thoughts arise spontaneously, just as clouds form in the sky. The trouble begins when we identify with these abstractions, believing that the ego is real. This identification creates conflict, fear, and an urgent desire to control, improve, and protect something that does not truly exist. The ego is precisely what tries to meditate. The irony is that the very thing that seeks to let go cannot let go. The ego cannot surrender, for to do so would mean its own dissolution. Meditation cannot be performed by the ego. The moment you approach meditation as something you must do, you are reinforcing the very illusion that must be dissolved. Meditation is not something you achieve. It happens when the ego exhausts itself and falls silent. Many people make the mistake of sitting down to meditate with tense bodies, determined to control their thoughts. But this very act of trying is itself noise. Trying to meditate is like trying to calm a turbulent pond with a flat iron. The harder you press, the more ripples you create. The water will settle naturally if you leave it alone, just as the mind settles when you stop trying to control it. Most people think meditation means the absence of thought, that a blank mind is the goal. But thoughts are not the problem. They are no more an issue than the sound of birds chirping or traffic passing outside your window. They are simply happenings, part of the grand orchestration of life. You do not need to suppress them or resist them. You simply observe them, as you would listen to the wind or watch leaves flutter. Meditation happens naturally when you stop interfering. When you stop trying to meditate, you are meditating. It is a paradox. The ego wants to be in control, even over its own surrender. But surrender is not something the ego can do. It arises only when the ego dissolves. Therefore, let go of the effort. Allow the mind to be as it is. Like a bird eventually quieting its song, your thoughts will settle when left undisturbed. Meditation is the art of non-doing, the grace of simply being. It is not a practice of striving, of achieving tranquility or enlightenment. It is simply being present with what is, without the compulsion to alter, judge, or fix. It is a profound listening, a receptive presence to the world as it is. As you close your eyes, allow the world to pour into you. Hear the hum of distant traffic, the whisper of the breeze, the beating of your own heart. You do not label these sounds. You do not categorize them. You simply receive them. Allow your breath to breathe itself. Let your body exist as it is, without trying to improve or resist. This is the art of non-doing. You are not forcing anything. You are not aiming for a particular state. You are simply allowing. In this allowance, something remarkable happens. The boundary between self and world begins to soften. You no longer feel like a separate observer, but rather you become part of the happening itself. In this effortless state, you rediscover your true nature, spontaneous, free, and inseparable from the universe. Meditation is not a task to master, but a mystery to immerse in. It is the joy of being here, now, without trying to be anywhere else. The moment you stop trying to meditate, meditation occurs. It is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. Meditation is the play of existence. There is nothing to attain, nothing to become. There is only the flow, the rhythm of life itself. And as you sit, as you breathe, as you listen, meditation is already happening. No effort is needed. There is only this, the unfolding of existence, and you are part of its eternal, effortless rhythm. If you feel inspired by this message, subscribe to our channel and continue your exploration of Alan Watts's teachings on meditation and mindfulness. Share your thoughts in the comments and join us on the journey to self-awareness and spiritual growth.